Welcome back to the GCN Racing News Show. Coming up this week, a chaotic end to a chaotic Vuelta. I'll be analysing Jonas Vingegaard's win in the context of everything that did and didn't happen during the race. We also have the return of Pogačar, but not to winning ways, an incredible winning streak for his teammate Isaac Del Toro, and a wrap-up of all the latest transfers. This week in the world of racing, we learnt that Tadej Pogačar is back. Like last year, he resumed racing in Canada after winning the Tour de France. 29th in Quebec was his worst result in a one-day race since the Breton Classic in 2022, and whilst he only finished second in Montreal, that was because he gifted the win to his teammate Brandon McNulty. More on that later on in the show. We also learned that Mathieu van der Poel was not able to fulfil his dream of becoming world cross-country mountain bike champion. After a promising start, he later faded back through the field in the latter half of the race, coming home in 29th place, over 5 minutes down on South Africa's Alan Hatherley, who successfully defended his title. Congratulations to the GOAT too. 10-time world champion Nino Schurter called time in his career yesterday after his home race in Switzerland. And finally, we learned that Jonas Vingegaard is the Vuelta champion. For the Dane, it was his third Grand Tour win, and it means he's finished in the top 2 at his last 7 Grand Tours. An incredible run of consistency, underlining his credentials as one of the greats of the sport. However, for some, his win and the whole race has a large asterisk next to it. Many of the stages were disrupted due to protests en route, with summit finishes missed, time trials drastically shortened, and a finale in Madrid which was completely cancelled due to the escalating protests in the Spanish capital. It is not how anybody wanted to watch the race unfold, not the riders nor the fans, but you can only race under the circumstances in which you find yourself. Visma Lease Bike and Jonas Vingegaard did that the best of everyone in the race, and in my opinion, he is the rightful winner of La Vuelta this year. Now, I'm not going to dwell too long on the protests. I'm not a political commentator, for good reason. My knowledge of the situation is just not deep enough to give an opinion. But what I will say is that sport, for many of us, is an outlet, whether that's doing it ourselves as a leisure activity or watching it on TV. It's entertainment, and I think we're all aware that whilst we watch it, there are other things going on in the world that are far, far more serious. Bike racing is not important in the greater scheme of things, we all know that, but at the same time, it is important that we have an outlet. You can be entertained, you can be taken to a place away from your personal troubles or those going on in the world around you, while still having sympathy and empathy towards people that are living in dire situations. I really feel for the riders. They just want to race their bikes, obviously. They are generally not able to answer the types of questions that were being posed to them over the last couple of weeks of La Vuelta. And for some, this Vuelta will be the only Grand Tour that they ever race, and they were denied the celebration of arriving in Madrid after 3 weeks that were tough both mentally and physically. Back to Jonas Vingegaard then, and what impressed me most about his win is that he clearly wasn't at 100% of his physical capabilities. He was sick through some of the race and probably also paying for the major efforts of the Tour de France just a few weeks earlier. So I was working out that in a 71-day period, he raced for 42 days. And he still won. That, for me, is the sign of a true champion. There's no doubt that as things stand, he's playing second fiddle to Pogačar, but he is still a champion. Finishing the top 2 of a Grand Tour 7 times is something that's only surpassed by 9 riders in the history of the sport. Giro d'Italia next? Perhaps. He's certainly been hinting that he wants to tick that one off the list, hasn't he? If he does go there next year and wins it, he'll have achieved something Pogačar has yet to do, a win in all 3 Grand Tours, joining a group that currently numbers 7, Froome, Nibali, Contador, Eno, Merckx, Gimondi and Anquetil. So congratulations to Jonas Vingegaard and to the team that was 100% behind him throughout. Unable to celebrate his victory in a normal fashion, with the podium ceremonies also cancelled in Madrid yesterday, Visma Lease Bike made their own impromptu podium celebration, where they also invited Pidcock and Almeida, which was really cool to see. Joao Almeida can, I think, be happy with his performance. We all saw that there were times when he could have done with his teammates' help and they were nowhere to be seen, but it didn't seem to bother him as much as those on the outside looking in. He fought every step of the way, and given how impressive he's been since February this year, maintaining that form deep into September is proof of how strong he is in body and mind. Winning a Grand Tour is going to be tough for him whilst Pogačar and Vingegaard are at the top of their game still. But if the stars align, and perhaps if the stars line up at a different race, he can certainly win a Grand Tour. The biggest surprise of the general classification, though, has got to be Tom Pidcock. He started the race with the aim of finishing in the top 10, and he's come away with third. Now, you could say that it wasn't the deepest field of general classification riders. You could say the course changes may have helped him, but as I said earlier, you can only play with the cards that you're dealt. However you look at it, the way he's ridden over the last 3 weeks is the first real sign that he does have the potential to compete with the best in future Grand Tours. His result is also massive for his team, Q36.5. It is very rare for a second division pro team to get a rider onto the podium of a Grand Tour, so congratulations to them as well. The rest of the top 10 was as follows. Jai Hindley of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe was 4th, which is his best result in a 3-week race since he won the Giro 3.5 years ago. Matthew Riccitello was the other standout performance for me. He finished 5th overall and best young rider, overtaking Giulio Pellizzari on the penultimate stage, or final stage I guess. Sepp Kuss took 7th, Felix Gall 8th, Torsten Trein 9th, and Matteo Jorgensen gave Visma 3 riders in the top 10 by finishing 10th overall. Mads Pedersen comfortably won the points competition, Jay Vine the King of the Mountains, and UAE the team's classification, and they took home 7 stage wins of course. Giulio Pellizzari also took his first pro win on the summit finish of stage 17. He continues to impress, doesn't he? Filippo Ganna and Egan Bernal both took stage wins for Ineos Grenadiers in the final week, and it was great to see that success for Bernal in particular, albeit not in the circumstances that he'd have liked. Jasper Philipsen also took his second stage win of the race into Giulio on Friday, but was denied an opportunity to take his third win yesterday. And that is that for Grand Tour season in 2025. The Vuelta is not going to live long in the memory for sporting reasons in this edition. I'm sure I wasn't the only fan who lost a bit of interest over the final week of the race, and it's a shame. I just hope it doesn't have any longer lasting negative impact on the race. But let me know your thoughts. Did you lose interest in the race, or were you still glued to your screen? Should the organisers have handled things better? Should the UCI have got more involved? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section just below this video. Okay, on to the Grand Prix of Quebec and Montreal. I really like those 2 races, I've got to say. Quebec had a slightly amended circuit this year, which was a bit tougher in the lead up to the finish line. Better for Pogačar, many thought, but for once, he didn't really play much of a role in the outcome of the race. With around 70 k's to go, a strong group formed at the front, including Julian Alaphilippe. Unusually for him, he sat on and didn't contribute to the pace setting. I actually thought he didn't have the legs on the day, which is why he was sat on, but I was wrong. A number of riders later bridged across to the Alaphilippe group, including Sivakos, Skelmoser and Bettiol. With 1 lap to go, their advantage was just 13 seconds over a group containing Pogačar behind, but the bridge was never made. So a trio of riders led into the final climb to the finish. With 1.5 k's to go, Alaphilippe attacked and got clear of Sivakov and Bettiol. They were beginning to claw him back, but the line came too late for them and just in time for the Frenchman, who took his first one-day win in well over 2 years. The Grand Prix Montreal is the harder race of the 2 in terms of parkour and metres of climbing, and as such, Pogačar was the big favourite. UAE set an infernal pace with Pollitt and Wellens, to the point that when I started watching, the front group was only about 30 riders strong, with still 70 kilometres remaining. The pace really was relentless. I was sat there waiting for the inevitable Pogačar attack, but when it came to it, it was actually Brandon McNulty who went on the move. Only Quinn Simmons followed him, and they were later caught by Pogačar and Louis Barret of Intermarché, who really impressed me yesterday. Pogačar attacked with 23 k's to go, going solo, but when he realised that McNulty had dropped Simmons, he waited for him and then allowed him to sit on almost all the way to the finish line. Now, it became clear during the early celebrations that Pogačar was going to gift the win to his teammates. Not something that we often see from him, mainly because he's normally solo off the front on his own. I personally thought it was the right gesture to make. It's a big race, but not the biggest, and it was nice to see him give back to a team and teammate who's given so much to him over the years. Without wishing to be too controversial, I wonder whether that favour might be returned at the upcoming World Championships. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Was Pogačar right to gift the win, or should he have won the race himself? I'll be very interested to read what you think. Right, just before I move on, a reminder that you can watch a full season of bike racing live on Discovery Plus or Max. This week that's going to include the Tour de Luxembourg, Grand Prix of Wallonie, Championship of Flanders and the Super 8 Classic. Okay, on to the Tour de l'Ardèche. I'm not going to spend too long on this one because there was no footage of the race. Lotte Kopecky won the opening stage but abandoned 2 days later after a nasty crash. Early indications were that it was not too serious, but later scans revealed a fractured vertebra, which will likely end her season. The second stage had been cancelled as nationwide protests in France disrupted all sorts of events. In the end though, Monica Trinca-Colonel took the overall victory. She won the sixth and final stage, effectively taking her first 2 pro wins in one go there. Misha Bredevold won back-to-back stages on Thursday and Friday, whilst the other stage win went to Marianne Bunel of Visma. Meanwhile, down in Italy, Isaac Del Toro was busy sweeping up more wins for UAE Team Emirates. So in the space of 5 days, he won the Giro della Toscana, Coppa Sabatini and Trofeo Mattiossi. He'd already won the Grand Prix Industria Artigianata a week ago as well. So since finishing second at the Giro back in May, he's won 11 races from 21 days of racing. He's won a total of 7 one-day races so far this year. The only rider to have done better than that in recent times was Arnaud Delis back in 2022 when he won 8. The other race in Italy last week was the Memorial Marco Pantani. That was won by Michael Storer of Tudor Pro Cycling, whilst Paul Magnier took a win for Soudal Quickstep in France at the Grand Prix Formier. Right, back to riders with incredible win rates now. Lorena Vibes took the 24th win of her season at the Chorley Formier Feminin, where she beat Lara Gillespie and Gladys Verhulst-Wild. I shall move on to transfer news now, starting with 3 new recruits for Movistar. Last week they announced the signings of 3 Spanish riders, Juan P. Lopez from Lidl Trek, Roger Adria from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe and Raul Pierna Garcia from Arkea B&B Hotels. Outside of national championships, Movistar men's squad have only had 5 wins so far in 2025. They'll be hoping these new signings can help net them a few more next season. Alice Towers will move to EF Education Oatley from Canyon SRAM, whilst Canadian Sarah Van Dam is heading to Visma Lease Bike from Sarah Tizet, a team that will cease to exist from the end of this season. Mattia Catania has confirmed that he'll be following teammate Remco Evenepoel from Soudal Quickstep to Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. And finally, Sofia Bertizzolo is going to join FDJ Suez after 4 years at UAE Team ADQ. Right, that brings another racing news show to a close. I look forward to reading your views on La Vuelta and Pogacar's gift. I'll be back next week to wrap up all the pro racing as we build towards this year's UCI World Championships. See you then.